Um, so today, a lot's been going on lately. So Israel and Palestine have been a controversial topic in the news lately. So who would like to begin of what might be occurring right now?
I could. So basically, to give you a little backstory, um, 40 years ago, there started to become a major conflicts in Israel over certain territories in Palestine, and it's now just becoming ahead really because social media has been getting ahead of it and helping report the incidents now. So a lot of American attention, especially, is on the news here in 2020. So we all got the report. Israel attacked a major building which housed, funny enough, Al Jazeera buildings and different news organizations. They bombed an entire building complex, which resulted in, uh, don't have the list here, 42 Palestinians dead and 10 children dead. Okay, so this happened. Think about it this way: these territories that are there, they're kind of Israeli land at this point because, Palestine hasn't been a state for a long time, really. It's just more ethnicity at this point within Israel. So, would you expect this to happen in any of America? It's like if we were to be like, okay, the Native Americans, they're causing some trouble. They're shooting like bombs over at cornfields. Do we go and blow up an entire like building in the Native American like area? Because that is the American equivalent of what's happening in Israel. So it's just a very interesting like dynamic, especially for a heavily Jewish community. Since what happened in the Holocaust, I don't know why they're doing what's going on in Israel, but there's a reason for the conflict and the tensions between the Palestinians and the Israelites, and I would say it's mostly caused by Israel and their treatment of Palestinians.
I think that's a pretty accurate assessment of what's going on. Basically, I saw like a comment that said that it's like a fully trained military versus people with stones. And then, I mean,
Military backed up by the best military in the world.
Go Stoners.
um, we're gonna get to that because America loves Israel. Um, so we'll discuss about. Well, let's get into it right now. Eric, what do you think America should be doing right now?
Listen, all my opinions on war are derived strictly from the latest Call of Duty game, and they didn't get there yet. This is too modern for me. They're on Cold War. I'm waiting for the new version. But realistically, I don't think America should be involved in it. Let them fight their own wars. Let them figure it out. If we keep trying to step in, they're just going to keep fighting because we're just going to prolong it like it always happens. We should just stay out.
So I agree that just the only issue with that is that we fund Israel like $300 billion.
Well,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I think what he means is, don't fully, or I could
no.
be mistaken, but don't fully engage in it. I think it's important to have a stance and, or at least a statement
Mhm.
from, President Biden, also certain members, uh, certain politicians rather, but to at least have some sort of stance. But I think a lot of it is already shown just where we're funding. We fund Israel, and why we fund Israel is because they have certain things that we agree with, and they have the same enemies that we do. Those are common. That's a common theme. So of course we're not going to engage with the military and cause war. But I think another question is, why is this continuing? Why are innocent people being attacked? Like, what initiated it? I think we should look at that as well.
Patrick, just real quick to bring up, you brought up a good point, right? And I was talking to a like a military officer about this because I'm friends with him in another Discord of games I play. I said, why would the U.S. military support Israel for this fact? Do they really have like that good diplomatic standing with them? And they said, yes, they are a very important ally because they allow us to have military bases in an extremely strategic area of the world. So if you're looking at it from American government perspective, they're going to side with the relatively neoliberal nation. Like they're not too like out there, like when times of rhetoric, at least Israel. But when you look at their actions, what's going on with it, it's pretty extreme. So that's I would have to say is a very interesting thing to see is Americans, at least now, are okay with neoliberal nations like Israel to be doing whatever they want to do, pretty much. I mean, we see it now. I mean, we said something when Hitler came up and started doing ethnic cleansing. This isn't the same type of ethnic cleansing. However, I would say 1,000%. That's totally different from the kind that's going on here. But it's still not okay. I mean, we weren't okay with it back in what was happening in our times in America with Martin Luther King and how they had people, certain black people, go to certain areas like suburbs and not suburbs, urban areas, very low income housing. How it happened in America through law, but it's just a different concept. And I definitely think is Israel in general is taking a very militant approach to this.
I think that's one of the issues too, is that Israel kind of moves the Palestinian population like over within time. So like I don't know if you guys like saw the video, but there was like Jewish settlers going into like a Palestinian's like backyard or whatever and like starting to like dig shit up.
Yeah,
and
I see that.
And they're like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, we've been neighbors forever. It's like, no, this is my house now. And
I have to tell in the video. It's like I have to take it. You don't understand. I have to steal this from you. Like I was what the hell's this logic?
We did that to the Native Americans only a couple hundred years ago too. So.
America's
pretty fond of that, so I see why we're on their side now.
I mean, it was quite a long time ago, and Jackson was a pretty different kind of person. But I don't know. I don't think it's that black and white at all. And I remember in 2000. Well, I don't remember from the time I was alive then because I was 5, but I believe in 2005 they were making certain attempts to pull out of Gaza. And second, if you look at a huge military action, it's one because they have that capacity. They're funded by the U.S., and their defense system is impeccable. And one of the main reasons is because they're pretty much antagonized, or the other way around, by the rest of the Middle East. The majority of them, they're the outlier there, and they have walls and all these things to defend themselves. And there are two arguments to it. It's one, they're killing innocent lives, and no one supports that. But it's also difficult when there is terrorist threat there as well. There's Hamas, so that's another thing we should take into account.
I think that that's a great point, Patrick, because of where Israel is situated in geographical terms. They are just on edge 100% of the time, because it could go south real quick. So when Hamas sends 2 rockets, they reply with 20. It's because like they're very on edge, and it causes them to retaliate with like extreme force because they don't want they're trying to deter everyone else. But that's the thing. And Hamas obviously is one of the major presences in Gaza. And I was thinking about this. I was like, why would Hamas want to, when they shoot rockets at Israel? I mean, I guess this turns into like a who shot who first kind of ordeal. But hypothetically, let's just say that Hamas shoots a rocket at Israel, right? Why would they do that when they know that Israel's going to shoot back as many as like them times 7? And it got me thinking, a terrorist organization almost wanting retaliation from the Israeli government to recruit more people for the terrorist organization. It's terrorism 101. And it's the reason why when like us being in the Middle East for so long in drone strikes and everything, we created more terrorists just by doing that, because technology is not perfect. It's not. And again, you don't want to endanger your own soldiers. And even that could, lead to some trouble.
Add one more thing to that. Where is Hamas shooting from? Like, where are they located? I was looking at some videos that they don't always show in the news, but one important aspect is, where are they shooting the missiles from? Because it's not that, I don't believe that Israel is just shooting at civilians like, oh, we don't like them, they're a different ethnicity. It's not. I think it's more the approach is more civil than it's been a while back, because there's been this, this back and forth for a while. But Hamas is literally shooting in a civilian area,
Yeah.
and they're shooting at a very highly defensed place in Israel. Israel has great defenses, like this Iron Dome, what you would call it. But the only way to stop them from shooting is to shoot there. So I doubt Israel is like, oh yes, we love to do this. We get a bloodthirst out of it. No, it's terrible. And I think that's why this situation is very gray, and it's very, and that there are two sides to it. People
Patrick,
are dying.